And we are live. We're live out there. Actually, you know what's interesting is I am not sure what page we're live on. I don't know if we're live right now on my personal page or what. We'll get it figured out, John. All right, so this is going to be great. We're going to talk about the Mesa marketplace, which this is popular demand. People want to know, hey, what's going on in my backyard? Heard a lot about real estate. Heard prices are heard the market's crazy. But for a lot of people who maybe aren't in the market yet, but they're just maybe starting to dabble or they're starting to talk about it, they may not really know the breadth of what's going on here. And there's definitely a lot to talk about. So John Lieber joining me today from New Leaf Realty, good buddy of mine. John, it's great to have you here, bro.
Derrick, always good to see you.
Yeah, so we're going to talk. I always like to get the numbers out of the way because this can't be just straight opinion, right? We have to, show some real facts. And so we're going to jump there real quick here. And we're going to look at La Mesa. I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit of zooming on this if I can figure it out. It always takes me a second. And what you see here, or what I'm looking at and what we're going to show and what I'll be drawing on is just a report. Where do you get this report from? John, is this from SDAR?
Yeah, it is. So they publish this for us for every zip code, county, the county as a whole. You can get so much information from them. So these are the statistics that they compile off the MLS. So it's all as accurate a number as you can get.
And I noticed this one is for 91941 specifically, 91942, not to be forgotten in the La Mesa conversation, right? But this is the main zip code for La Mesa.
Yeah, this is a lot bigger area. I would, when people think of La Mesa, they usually think La Mesa Village and Mount Helix. So this zip code covers both those areas. So, this is the more widely known zip code for La Mesa.
And so what we're going to look at here is just real quick on this, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Now, this is August 2019 versus August 2020, right? Right here. That's what we're showing on these numbers.
Exactly.
And the thing that there's two things that really stick out to me, I guess three, four now. But main thing that most people are going to see here is price differential. You're talking about low 700s last year, low 800s this year for almost 15%.
That's 1 year. It's crazy. It's such a huge increase. Really, you start to analyze these numbers, and for those who don't like numbers, maybe you'll go to sleep right now, but hopefully you wake up when we're done with this. But it's interesting because you look at pending sales. Pending sales are up. That's the second line item there. So there's more. So it's, yeah, we've lost some homes in the market here, but they're all going pending. Like that's the crazy thing about this is, and we look at some San Diego areas and it's like, oh yeah, we're maybe down 25% in the number of listings we've got right now. If you go down and look at inventory of homes for sale, that's one of your blue lines there where your cursor is.
Yeah, right here.
We're down 58% in number of listings, but pendings are higher. So we've got more buyers out there buying homes, and we've got less than half the amount of listings. So you can see what it's doing to the prices. The prices are just going way up.
What's really crazy to me, I mean, the first thing I saw was, hey, we're getting over 100% of list as an average. You got to remember, these are averages. So this includes any bozos out there or whatever, like, or weird scenarios like days on market, 16 days on average, which includes the people who've overpriced their homes that aren't selling. So, you look at these and you go, okay, average days on market. I'm sorry, this is only until the sale. So these are homes that have sold. So 16 days, the average. So that means there's some that are happening faster than that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some that are happening a little bit longer than that, but they're averaging 16 days, which is half of what it was a year ago, which shows you, I think, the level of demand.
In reality, you get one home that takes, say, 100 or 120 or 150 days to sell. That really skews that average number. It really pulls that average number up. So the reality of that 16 is that it's the majority of the homes that are good quality homes are gone within a week.
Yeah. Yep. And they're going very quickly. Also, the inventory of homes for sale from 69 to 29 down almost 60%. Months of supply. We're at 1 month's worth of supply. If no new homes come on the market the next month, John, there's nothing for sale in 91941.
And that number has actually gone down since this was published for August. As of this morning, there were 24 homes active on the market. So we just continue to have more homes go pending than get listed right now.
So crazy when you think about all that. And then what I wanted to do, let's see, I don't know. I think I have to, I don't know if I can clear this or not. Maybe here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the share for a second, and then I'll pull this up because I thought this was interesting. You know, when you sent me the stats, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, looking at La Mesa, and then there's another attachment here for North Park. I'm like, why is John sending me North Park stats? Aren't we going to talk about La Mesa? So tell me what your thoughts were around this as I pull a share up here.
So, North Park, they say La Mesa Village is kind of the new North Park, the new South Park. It's got a similar vibe. There's a lot of outdoor, well, they're all outdoor restaurants right now, but there's a ton of restaurants, and they're really good in La Mesa. You can walk to everything around the La Mesa Village. So you get a lot of younger people that are looking for the North Park type scene with where they're living, and La Mesa Village really offers that now. And I think we're, in La Mesa Village, actually doing it better than North Park and South Park are in a lot of ways, because you've got all this stuff in a really kind of tight couple block area where you can just choose one of 10 great places to go. So I wanted to see where North Park was price wise compared to this, and to see what the numbers looked like compared to La Mesa Village. And what you see there under median sales price is that North Park's gone up 2.6% over the last year. La Mesa's gone up 14.9%. I mean, it is just far outpacing North Park. And I happen to look at some other areas too, and the numbers are all similar. It's for Carmel Valley, it's 2.9%, I want to say. For Carlsbad, it's like 2.4%. It's not appreciating like we are here. And I think a lot of that is, there's a couple different things that I think are going on here. One, the prices still are lower here. If you look at the median price overall at La Mesa versus Carlsbad versus North Park versus Carmel Valley, our median sales price is, for some of those zip codes, quite a bit lower, although compared to North Park, we're not much lower. But you look at that and it seems like, hey, La Mesa's still got some room to grow. But we've also created what I think is a better area to live too, where you've got a little bit more space. You do have the good restaurants, and with all the stuff going on in the world with COVID and people really wanting more space, working from home, you're getting more land, you're getting a bigger house, but you're also getting it in a really cool area where you've got historic homes and just really cool architecture. So yeah, there's a lot of draws here, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think we're trending up really to where we should be, like one of those really, really hot areas. Hopefully the prices don't get too high to keep people out, but
it's catching up to where it should be. As you mentioned, and they spent how many millions of dollars on the Mesa Village? Was it 10 or 15 million bucks? They dropped into that one, small little area to really renovate it and get, new opportunities in there. So cool. You and I just had breakfast there the other day. It was awesome. Yeah. So there's a lot going on over in the Mesa. There's no question about it. And by the way, we're not shitting on North Park. North Park's great. But in this environment, and it's still doing well, and prices are going up in North Park. We just showed you. But when you're seeing what's happening, I think the macro trend is for more space, which is, I think, a natural thing when people have been forced to be in their homes so much, to kind of go, ugh, because, as Americans, and, we're used to kind of getting the things we want, the way we want, when we want. We're not used to being told that you have borders and you have to stay within these lines. And we've been told that for the last 6 months. So I think you are seeing people go, you know what, I want to get more space for my buck. It used to be, with real estate, John, it was all about location. And now I think it's more about the house, the property. And you're getting more property, more bang for your buck. Not only the investment in La Mesa Village, which is super awesome, that I'm super hip on, love it, but also just the overall community has always been, it seems like it's always been sort of a place where people rotate from, Mission Hills and Ocean Beach and La Mesa. Although they have this weird connection, but there's like this chill atmosphere and sort of an architectural style that seems to, coincide between those different areas. And a lot of times people who couldn't afford Ocean Beach or Mission Hills, they would go to La Mesa because they had the same kind of vibe. And you're finally seeing La Mesa catch up, I think, to where it should have been this whole time. And we've been screaming for how long what a great deal La Mesa is. And I have a friend who bought a house in La Mesa a few years ago, and she's like, gosh, should I sell it? They're selling for so much now versus what I paid for it. And of course she's not going to sell, because where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Where, what's going to be a better deal? You got a great deal on a home. Congratulations. And so when we look at these, and we're going to pull up the map in a second to really dial this in, but I think that what's interesting about it is what opportunities it provides some of those La Mesa homeowners who, number one, want to go more coastal. They have an amazing opportunity with the equity that they have right now. And for people like us who are analyzing this thing and going, well, what's the growth pattern all about? Space and vibe are really a big deal in this market right now. And I think La Mesa has both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing we've always heard, location, location, location. It's kind of like now, if you've got the right amount of space, you kind of create your own location. I mean, really, if you've got space,
true story,
you can create the house that you really want. You're likely going to be there a lot more right now and for the foreseeable future. So you can just really create a lot more. And I think people they just want that space a lot more right now.
Agreed. So let me pull this up. I'm going to do another share, and we'll just kind of give you an overhead map view look, at La Mesa, according to Google. In Google, we trust, right? We just believe this house all set out. We don't really know, but this is what we think it is.
Yeah.
So, this is the reference point. Let's see. So here's Walmart, and the Target. Here's the Grossmont area. I think most people are pretty familiar with this area, Grossmont right here. And then the Village area is going to be, let's see.
Just south there by your little orange pin there.
Right here.
Yep, right in that area.
Right here is the Village area. Spring Street, right here is one of the streets that you come in and off the highway. You come in off Spring, come down this way right here. I used to live off 3rd Avenue, which is right over here somewhere. In a really cool little house over there on 3rd Ave, 4520 3rd Avenue, I think it was. My daughter was born in that home. Well, she was born in Grossmont Hospital, which is over here.
Yep.
But we brought her home to that house. So it's always going to have a special place in my heart. But I loved the time that we spent there. And it wasn't anything like it is now. I think if you haven't been to La Mesa in a while, like I think back to what it was back then. Now, this is 2007 we're talking about, but it was sort of like antique shop after antique shop, John. So I think some people, they may still have that in their heads that, oh, well, La Mesa's, antique-y, it's old school, it's kind of got an older vibe. But the hipness factor has really increased in La Mesa.
Yeah, and you see it with home prices, of course, especially around La Mesa Village. It always used to be that Mount Helix was the place to go, and Mount Helix is beautiful. And you see usually the big ranch style house out there on an acre. I mean, those were the ones over the last several years. Those would be the only ones that would ever sell, close to $1 million, over $1 million. And now what we're seeing around La Mesa Village is places that aren't even on that big of a lot, but like the kind of north part, Kensington, kind of that type of house, really nicely done. We've got several sales over the last 6 months that are well over $1 million there. And that was just never the case before. And they're the architecturally really significant, cool houses, but this wasn't the case before. And there's multiple offers on most of these. So the cool thing about the area that I really like is that you do see, when I look out from my house, there's an unbelievable prairie style craftsman house that a good buddy of mine lives in. 1910. The guy was the grandfather of La Mesa. Used to sit on 14 acres. that place is just unbelievable. And then there's one called the Todd House. That's this historically significant house that sold for just under $1.5 million at the end of last year. Cool mid-century house that's in escrow right now. They were asking $1.4 million, and I know they've got multiple offers. So I think it's likely going over what they're asking. So if you like the really cool, really probably more like a Kensington type vibe in a lot of ways, where you just have the really architecturally significant homes, there's a lot of them out here, more than a lot of people would think. So
it's in this area right here, right? You're talking about where the X marks the spot.
It's actually would be just west of there on the other side of Spring Street.
Oh, this side over here.
Yeah, so right in there, that's where the ones that are, have been $1.2 million to $1.4 million or $1.5 million have sold recently.
This is a little more elevated, right? This area right here.
Yeah, that'll either, go by the name of Windsor Hill, or people will still call it La Mesa Village, because it's all, all within a 10-minute walk of La Mesa Village. But that area is technically Windsor Hills.
Well, the Village kind of crosses Spring Street now, doesn't it? I mean,
yes.
The main street there. What is the main street for the Village? Is it University?
La Mesa Boulevard.
Mesa Boulevard.
Yeah.
That one, it really crosses Spring Street, and you kind of have stuff going on both sides of it.
Yeah.
But these areas here, and I've lived in this area, and I know the architecture there pretty well. There's also a really cool park. Over here, there's, Lake Murray's not far away. Cowles Mountain is just like right over here, and Grossmont Center has everything. So from a shopping standpoint, I mean, it's a one-stop shop. You literally have Walmart and Target and
your Trader
World
Joe's,
Market,
Costco close. I mean, they're all right there.
Everything. So you've got really, really convenient, scenario there. How are things like schools and stuff like that in La Mesa, John?
So the schools, there's quite a few really good schools. There's a couple of good private schools, public schools. So you're not missing out on much. You do have to pay attention more to where the school boundaries are, if that's really important to you, because there's certain streets where you'll get into a school that's not as highly rated as some of the other ones. So
that's good to know.
It is just good to pay attention to that.
And that's why, when you're buying, I know everyone says when you're selling, you need to have a neighborhood expert, but in my opinion, it's when you're buying is when you really need the neighborhood expert for exactly those reasons. Well, on this side of the street, you go to that school, and on this side of the street, you go to that school. And it's really, really important to know where those lines are drawn when you're looking in these areas, if schools are important. One of the first questions I ask in my buyer's consultation is, are schools important? Just need to know, like, if you have kids, are they going to private school? If you don't have kids, okay, because it changes what your opportunity is. You may have a circumstantial advantage where you don't need to worry about schools right now, but you're going to be worried about it in 6, 7, 8, 9 years, because you plan on having kids in a few years. Cool. Well, you get to maybe invest in one of those areas where the schools are up and coming, and they'll get there because as the school ratings increase, so do home values. And, it's kind of the chicken and the egg. But when you have a situation like this where property values are up across the board, this is going to increase a lot of revenue. This is going to pour a lot of money into the schools across the board in San Diego.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really a lot of the schools have been brought up. The ones that were rated lower have been brought up for that very reason recently. So there's some competition amongst the schools, and it's cool to see how the I forget the site, the My Great Schools or Great Schools rating, how they've gone up for a lot of the areas, a lot of the schools. One of the other things I wanted to bring up, which I don't know how public knowledge this is amongst people who live in La Mesa yet, but there's a proposal out there to do a town square, kind of like Little Italy, how they've got that big central area that's no traffic through it.
Really?
Where they would add a ton of underground parking and actually close down one of the blocks permanently right in the middle of the village, where that would be the town square. And so you'd have people gathering there, for coffee, for ice cream, after dinner, just a place to hang out where there's no traffic. So I love that idea. I want to say pretty much every single business owner in that area was on board with it, because all this stuff, you can see that you can see the effect of what they've done over the last 4 or 5 years what it's done to real estate prices. It's made it better and better, more and more appealing. So the more of this we can do, the better it gets.
There's no question about it. And when you look here, so villages, let's say this area here, but it also kind of crosses over here a little bit on University. This is the area we were talking about earlier. So I just zoomed in a little bit. I used to live on this side. This little neighborhood over here is awesome. This park right here is a lot bigger than it looks on this map.
Yeah, tennis courts out there.
Yeah, tennis courts down there. I used to take my daughter down there all the time, and they actually renovated that too recently. Yep. Looks really, really good down there. I also forgot the Sprouts. When I lived there, it was still called Henry's.
Yep.
And so there's a Sprouts right there that we could walk to that I could have hit a golf shot to, like, from where I lived at that time with maybe a 5-iron.
Yeah.
And so then you do have Vaughn's on the other side. So you've got so much stuff right here, but you have, I think, the desired sort of look and feel, the character that I think a lot of people are looking for in real estate these days. The comeback that's been made, I call it the Chip and Joanna effect. They brought old. I've never seen, John, to me, this is crazy because I hadn't watched Fixer Upper in years. And we went on a kick like a year ago and I watched Joanna do her thing and she was distressing stuff on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
She was like taking sandpaper to stuff to like rub it and make it look old. And that's when something really clicked for me. I was like, okay, so that's going to be in style. So worn is in style. So, antique is in style. So, these old craftsman styles, these old construction styles are in style.
Yeah.
This is what people want. That's one of the reasons I think you've seen such a surge in North Park. And I'm glad you brought that up, or South Park, and some of the nearby areas there, because those have surged, in a major, major way. You don't necessarily get, and we didn't dive too deep into it. You don't get as much, let's say, bang for your buck and like price per square foot. Like you'll get a better deal in your price per square foot for the lot in La Mesa and your price per square foot in the home in La Mesa. And that's where I think people are at now. They like the style, but they want a little more bang for the buck. And when you look at, let's do this. This will be a fun exercise. Let's zoom this sucker out, because I say this all the time, but we rarely put the map on it. A lot of people, when I first moved here, people told me that La Mesa was East County. So here's the county. Let's get all the way up to, okay, so here's Oceanside right here, right? Here's Chula Vista. Here's downtown. There's La Mesa.
We're practically on the beach, Derrick. I would call that coastal. If you get high enough, we're going to be a coastal community.
You're just going to call it coastal for the listing description?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, here's La Mesa right here. Okay. So here's the whole, you call San Diego DMA. This is the majority of it right here. That's La Mesa. So, you tell me, like, where's the exact center at, maybe somewhere in here in the county, like just south of Poway. So like, that's like the center of this whole thing. So it's not really east at all.
Right in the middle. Yeah. It's very central. It's not really East County like you'd think of East County, like way out into, I don't know, East El Cajon or Alpine or somewhere like that. It's not like that at all. It's really close to everything.
Yeah, here's Alpine, definitely East County, right? Mm-hmm. Lakeside, Santee, El Cajon down here. These are okay. That's East County, sure. I just don't think you can label La Mesa East County. Not that there's anything wrong with East County, but it's just not east enough. It's too easy to get. When you have access, when you're on the 8 like this, it's so easy to get everywhere. You can do, and the 94 is awesome, and the 125 is great if you're going south. Everything kind of runs through La Mesa, and also Santee kind of has the same thing going for it, where you have all these different ways to get where you need to go, depending upon which direction you're headed. You got a lot of flow through. I remember when I lived in La Mesa, I worked downtown, spent a lot of time downtown. I also, went to the radio studio a lot up North County, and it was all so very easy for me. And that was when traffic was bad. Unlike it is now.
It's funny what just hit me over the last week. Some of the areas like the Coronado where people you'll hear about, hey, they bought this house, they just bulldozed it, and they're going to put up a brand new house. I was driving up the street in La Mesa Village area the other day, and all of a sudden there's a construction fence and the house is completely leveled. So I think when you've got people that are willing to either buy something or completely take it down and build what they want, it just shows you that there's a lot of value. There's a lot more value in that land, or there's got to be enough value in that land in order to make that have some financial sense.
Yeah.
So, I think we are seeing more and more of that too, not necessarily complete teardowns, but just the big remodels. And you go through most of the streets, most of the area now, and it is like a Kensington, North Park, South Park, where you start to see the majority of the houses are really nice. They're older, they're historic, but they're all fixed up really nicely.
Yeah. That's crazy. So you had actual teardowns going
Yeah,
on.
we got a tear down.
Wow. That definitely tells you something. I mean, that tells you a lot about the area. And so I would like to try to package this in the sense of, then we'll start with sellers. How does this information help people who might be a potential home seller? We talk to some people, maybe, they're in that Mount Helix custom home and the kids are gone and it's time to down, whatever the situation may be. I think I may have lost my audio again. I don't know what's going on with that.
That's better now.
Is it back?
Yeah, it came out for a second.
Something's going on with my connection here, which is a real shame because I have it all dialed in finally, and now my USB cord isn't working. So we have all that going on. What is the advice for sellers, John? If we're in a market like this where things are so hot, they're moving so quickly, like what can we give from a value standpoint to people who might be looking to sell?
Well, I wouldn't say Mount Helix is second fiddle to La Mesa Village. I mean, we're not at that point yet. I mean, and just to briefly touch on Mount Helix, we didn't see hardly any. If you pulled up homes that were, say, over $1.5 million on Mount Helix, any sales there, you wouldn't really find much. Maybe you'd find one or two a year. We've got one pending now that's listed for 2.7. One came on the market today for 2.2.
Wow.
So you're seeing some big numbers there too. I just think, hey, some sellers, we're all a little bit uncertain with the election coming up and what's going to happen economically. So I do think you see some people that are like, hey, prices are high right now. It's a good time. And they're right. I mean, with the numbers the way they are, it's a pretty good time if you're thinking about selling and going somewhere else. It's a good time to do it. Prices are really high, and I think people are capitalizing on that. But as far as La Mesa, just in general is concerned, I think the trend of more space, the work at home thing where you need more house, where you can plant a big garden, where you've got more yard to run around and do stuff in, that's not going to end no matter what happens with the election or economic turmoil or whatever could potentially come down the pike if it was a real negative for a while. I think areas like this are going to go up, and that's what we've seen. The areas that are a little bit more on the outskirts with a little bit more space, they're far outpacing the stuff that's closer into town. So I think value-wise, this is going to hold its value better than other places. So for a seller, yeah, it's a pretty good time. If you're thinking about selling, I wouldn't hesitate to do it. You just better have something else, a good idea lined up where you're going to go, because it is a competitive buyer's market out there.
That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, and I would say on the sell side, take advantage of that to help yourself on your buy, negotiate up front that, hey, I'm not going to vacate this property until I close on my sale, on my purchase. So
and you'll get it. I mean, that's my last client that we closed on in Del Cerro area. I represented the seller on that, and they got 2 months free rent back because there's enough interest in a place. You can pretty much dictate the terms of what you want as a seller. And, on a rent back situation like that, what that obviously does for you, it gives you 2 months at least to find something else that you want. And you've already got the money from the closed escrow on the sale of your house. So there's a good strategy in doing this now, and it's not that big of a leap of faith to think you could find something in 2 or 3 months. You'll find something, especially if you've got the money in the bank and you're ready to go.
Yeah, you're not writing a contingent offer, and you can really
Yeah.
set yourself up for success on your buy side if you are, a seller who's doing a sell and a buy scenario. And let's talk about that buy side because that's the other place where I think there's probably been more pain for buyers in this market than there has been sellers. Sellers have just been getting big checks.
Mhm.
Hey, congratulate, cha-ching, but for the buyers who are battling these things out, there's dozens of offers on certain properties, especially certain price points. I mean, what's the advice to win in this market, John?
Got to have a good agent. I mean, really, that's the you don't want to say that the agent's not important in certain scenarios, but if there's only one offer out there, you're the only guy offering, the agent doesn't mean as much. If there's 12 offers, your agent better be communicating with the listing agent. They better be selling themselves and why they're a good agent to work with. And they better be selling you as a buyer on why you're the right fit for the house. So um, I tell this to a lot of my buyer clients when I meet with them. I haven't had any situations over 10 plus years in the business where I've written more than maybe, I don't know, I can't think of a scenario where I've written more than 4 or 5 offers for a client. I mean, my job is to get them there and advise them on where they need to be. Sometimes that's coming up a lot in price or whatever it might be, but it's based on the situation. And I hear about people writing 12, 20, 30 offers and not getting something. And that's, to me, that's ridiculous. You should not be writing 30 offers and not finding what you want. Either your agent's not giving you the right advice on where you need to offer, or they're not communicating, or they're not selling you on why you're a good fit, because that doesn't fly with me.
Yeah, yeah. Or the client isn't listening to their agent. That could be the other thing. So
Yeah.
you got to hire a good agent, and then you have to heed their advice.
Well, I get
So
all mine in a headlock right from the first meeting and tell them
show them who's
exactly.
boss.
No, but I think
You're gonna
it's
listen to
important. I
me.
mean, my job is not just to write an offer for someone. It's to advise them if it's the wrong, if it's the wrong purchase, to tell them, hey, let's just step back and not do this. Or if it's the right one, hey, we got to step up $10,000 because in 10 years or 20 years, that's not really going to matter. And there's strategies where we can get some of that back during the purchase as well. So it's of the utmost importance right now to have a good agent on the buy side for you.
And I'll tell you what we've been doing just on the lending side to try to help buyers is, a lot of times you do a pre-approval. It's relatively skinny. You get income documents, but you're not underwriting the file necessarily. We've really gone to where we're getting the skinny to get an amount to give you an idea what you can get pre-approved for so you can start shopping. But then we're going ahead and continuing to work the file as if it were live.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think what's important about that is, hey, let's get all the documents in a row. Let's see if we can get ahead of something. Especially I focus on VA. Sometimes COEs, certificate of eligibility doesn't pull up or whatever. We're figuring that stuff out ahead of time. And what it allows us to do is, dive into that stuff, have everything ready so a quicker close can be executed within the offer. Because a lot of times, if a seller, especially if it's a vacant property or something like that, they want to get the money as quickly as possible. You might be competing with people who are paying cash and offering, a 14-day turnaround or something like that. So if you can do a financed offer at 21 days and have a better price, and they feel a little bit more confident, like, hey, this isn't a cash investor who's going to work us over in the transaction, you can still win,
Oh yeah.
with those scenarios in place. But in order to execute on that, we have to be ahead of the game a little bit. And so that's kind of what we're doing, is just preparing things a little bit more completely from the beginning and really essentially underwriting the file. We've literally hired someone just to underwrite these files that aren't files yet, just so that we can have them done and have them in a place where they're really complete. So when a contract comes in, they can go to underwriting immediately.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's why we work together, because you gotta be on top of it right now. And as a buyer's agent, you don't want to let the one house that your client really wants slip through their hands, because a lot of times those are pretty hard to replace, especially if you're coming to an area like this, like La Mesa Village, where there's it's not a homogeneous area where there's a bunch of stucco boxes. It's like, well, if you really like this really cool mid-century modern house, yeah, you might find one every few months, but there's not that many of them. So you better be able to step up and get it if that's what you want, or whatever it is.
If you lose the one early on, you'll compare every single house to it forever.
Exactly.
And they'll never live up. And that's, you know, a lot of times it's kind of shocking for people, but this is just sort of the karma of home buying. You're going to find something that you really, really like pretty much right away, most of the time. Now, some people may not everyone will, but a lot of times people go out and start looking and they'll find something that they fall in love with very soon. Unfortunately, they haven't quite learned yet how to be aggressive enough and how to really win in the market yet. They don't necessarily understand the competitive nature. That's where we have to really coach them on, hey, listen, if you want to win, this is what we need to do. Keep in mind, and this is the number one piece of advice for buyers, keep in mind, when your offer gets accepted, you're still not committed. So know that you're saying, hey, we've agreed to do a deal after I do my due diligence. And so you still have a due diligence period, a contingency period, whatever you want to call it, where you're in the driver's seat and you can back out if you want to.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's really risk-free. I mean, you're out, you know, $500 for an inspection and an appraisal.
At most,
so, you know, it's $1,000 investment to have a chance to get the home you really want. So yeah, there really is no risk in putting in a strong offer or something that might seem on the surface like it pushes you a little bit. But if it's the right place and you're going to be like, in 2 weeks, I wish I would have just, you know, gone up $5,000 or done this or whatever it was to get it. Man, I think about getting my house now. It's like, man, I would have really regretted not getting it had I not stepped up and done it. And I've seen that with so many of my clients. Like, gosh, it's the little bit that they might have had to come up or whatever it was, it doesn't come into play. If it's a place you're going to be at for a long time and you love it, you know, there's a limit to that, but you know, that's what you got to do right now.
It is. Yep. You got to take a close look at it for sure and see, hey, does it really matter? Is that extra $26 a month? Is that something you're going to miss? Or, you know, is it negligible for this house? And you can determine that, you know, very mathematically and very specifically. You know, what's funny, John, I'm pretty sure, hopefully I don't get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I have your phone number memorized. It's so easy. Of
course you do.
619-922-1000.
You got it.
See, you're one of the few phone numbers I actually have in this noggin these days. It's so easy. I'm like, man, where did you get this phone number? How long have you had? 922-1000? What the heck?
I had a buddy of mine's sister worked for AirTouch before Verizon bought them when I was in high school and got that number for me. And I was like a saved business client phone number and she got it for me. So
congrats on that,
brother.
Thank you. Oh man. So you have questions about
my number and your wife's number memorized, and that's it.
I do have her number memorized only because Siri just doesn't like, I can't just say her name and have her be called. I have to say, call this number, Siri, for whatever reason. But if you have questions about the La Mesa market, if you would like to know, hey, what is my home actually worth? What would it sell for? Or, hey, I'm thinking about buying that area. You guys mentioned there's some places where you want to look that are better than across the street. John Lieber is a great resource for you. Give him a call, 619-922-1000. John, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today, man. I really appreciate you donating your time to us.
Yeah, Derrick, I really appreciate it. It's always fun to be on and get to share a little information. So thank you.
Terrific stuff. Hey, let's share this with our friends too. Let's make sure everyone is smarter than everyone else when it comes to real estate in San Diego, especially the La Mesa real estate market, which is on fire. Thanks guys for watching.